there's the queen right there walking around. So it's a good thing I didn't bang her off, okay?
You wanted to see a queen?
You want to mark her?
Wow.
She's marked.
That's cool. It's marked, yeah.
Is she marked?
Yeah, she's
Oh,
marked.
okay.
How does she mark?
Yeah.
She's got a red dot on her.
So did a human put that on there?
Yes.
Can you see her right there?
I saw her.
The big long abdomen?
Yep.
Now she's relatively light colored, so she's easy to spot. Some of them are
Then
more.
she's got a red spot on her.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
got
that
a red
too.
spot. But if you're looking for your own queen, she may not have that.
Don't do that.
Spot.
Don't do that. There's no need.
Why would she be hanging out on there?
No need to do
Top.
what?
Oh, I see.
I'm putting her back in where she's going to be safe. And I know where she is now. So we know got a queen, but we still need to check to make sure that she's a laying queen. I assume by the looks of this, the bees are calm. They're not. I guarantee you this queen's in there laying and she's fine. I know that now. But you still want to go in and take a look.
Why do you know that now? Just because?
Because the way the bees are behaving.
I see.
If there was something wrong with her, they would be buzzing differently.
I see.
Coming, making a lot of noise and running around a lot.
So I'm removing a number 2 frame here to get in them because she's in there
And we don't want to squish her.
and I don't want to do any harm to her. So I'm going to work in this way, but I do want to get into the proper brood chamber, which is going to be in the middle of the hive, where we should see brood and eggs. There's,
Boy, look at it.
yeah, there's capped brood, and on the outside edges, uncapped brood. And normally you'll see some eggs on the outside of that. I don't see eggs on the outside of this particular one, but she's pretty much done laying it up. There's your pollen and your honey. It's a perfect brood frame right there. It's got every element you need except maybe some real fresh eggs, but and the other side's very similar. Pollen around the edge, honey outside of that. It's perfect. I call this a nuke on a stick. If you wanted to make a nucleus colony, besides the eggs, you'd have to add eggs. But this has everything, and you wouldn't want to do it with one frame. You want to do it with a couple like that. But it has all the ingredients you need to make that nucleus colony. If you took this frame away with another one similar to it with more eggs, you definitely want more eggs, fresh eggs. Put it in a 4-framer, put it over there somewhere. They would raise a queen. You come back in 30 days, you'd have a queen.
This frame has more eggs, has eggs in it.
Yeah, that was on the outside quite a bit. We'll find it.
Oh, this is what you want. Okay, you get the light right. See all that, those white larvae in there?
They're very small. If you need reading glasses,
I can try to get them in the light, but see the white?
it's like a little quarter grain of rice.
Yeah.
To get around to the other
Okay.
side, maybe.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
hold them. Let them hold them.
The
The best way is
Yeah.
hold right onto it and turn it so you can see it.
so you can get it to the light. Okay. And you see the white down at the bottom of the cell?
Oh yes, now
Okay.
I can see.
Now the white is larvae. They're hatched eggs. The bees are feeding them royal jelly, so they'll grow into and be sealed off and hatch out into a bee. But if you look right around the edges, you'll see they normally lay first in the center and then they go out. So as you go out, the larva is younger and younger. And on the very edges, you'll see eggs, which are about the size, smaller than the tip of the pin, but they're white and they sort of stand up. They look like a tiny, tiny, tiny grain of rice. Okay, those are under 3 days old. Okay, later than.
Sammy's half deaf, so you have to yell at him.
How do you harvest the honey?
Fine.
We'll get to that.
We're not there yet.
Oh yeah, that's another class, Sam. You gotta
Right
come
now,
later.
right now the honey is their food, right?
We're not harvesting.
Yeah, you're not gonna harvest it. But there's the honey.
Now, I noticed that you
See
put
that?
that bin exactly the same orientation.
I
as it
did
was
because
before.
you know if there was a reason for me to move it around, like I didn't like what she had. If she was all over on one side and I wanted to center her, I might move them.
Yeah,
She's
perfect.
she's got it the way she wants. The honey's on the outside of the box. That's where you want it.
Yeah.
Then as you move in, just like we did, we saw brood, we saw eggs, then we saw more mature brood. Queen's right over here somewhere. I'm not gonna mess with this box too much at all. They're good. The only thing this might need is a super.
Is a super, right?
And I think it would be a good idea to put one on if you have a shallow.
If you got
For a shallow or deep?
If you put it deep, you could probably split these.
Why do we?
Well, I don't think he wants to split them. I think he wants to keep this as is.
Well, if he wants to run double deeps, put it deep.
Put a deep one.
Yep. So,
Well, they're
I'll
gonna
tell
like
him to
me,
come back and
right.
put one. Yeah.
But
Okay.
definitely, I would put on a shallow now. Gotta remember, dandelions coming,
yeah.
honey's gonna start coming, pollen's gonna start coming. Number one problem, but other factor, it's the time of the year, daylight, length of daylight hours stimulates the swarm starting right about now.
You want to put a meeting on?
And that's
I don't
why,
have any shallows.
most of your swarms
I think,
are
well, Bill, if you want to clean something up and,
Late
and
May,
we'll put it on, whatever.
early June,
Whatever
after
we got. I
July.
didn't look at this one. That's a medium.
And the reason
You
is
just don't
they're
want one loaded one.
are keyed by the time. That's why occasionally you'll get false swarms. Usually they're not very
So
bad.
this is what
But
just wants
when
to
the
condition.
daylight dawn
Oh, we just,
hours
this was fine. Let's just
coincide
leave it as is.
with the solstice today.
Okay.
But this is just
And
putting on top.
So then the second thing is, like you said, crowding.
You'll see, it's
And
only got a couple.
what you're really doing is crowding the queen.
There is a queen there.
But there's nothing in here.
And what happens is the queen lays, if she's a good one like this, she'll probably lay 2,000 eggs a day. She'll lay almost her own
Minor
weight
with
in
another
eggs a
one.
day.
I think it'll be a good
Pretty
exercise.
miraculous.
I don't think it's.
So what happens, she's got a hive body, honey on the outside, a lot of brood in the center. Pretty soon, those are gonna be full of brood.
She's good.
But you can't lay with honey.
She's good, robust.
So she starts looking for a place to lay eggs, and she can't find it.
Yeah, I do this one and then the
And
other
then
one.
she thinks, oh, I'll lay queen cells.
Okay, we're gonna move over to this
And
one.
then they swarm.
And Bill's concerned, they got a queen in there that he thinks is laying, but very little brood last time he looked, and we want to make sure she's going to be able to make it.
Now,
And
but here's the background of this. And this will be another workshop in midsummer, is setting up double nukes. So this was set up as a double nuke back in July, and one half of it died through the winter, and one half stayed alive, but only barely. And so that's what this is. This double nuke, and this is not the original box. The original box is, never mind. But anyway, you had 4 frames on this side, 4 frames on this side, and there's a
divider.
divider here. So you had really an over-under 8 frames of a queen and brood on this side, and the same thing on this side. But now all we have, this is just storage, and now I have spread her out here below. But the main thing is to look at the quality, or not so quality,
Okay.
queen.
So again, watch the smoker. You can learn a lot. I do this 50 to 100 times a day. Okay, so I just go automatically, but if you mimic what I do, you won't have problems with your bees. I never wear a veil unless we have a real situation. Usually when it's somebody with a jacket on working with me is when I need to put a veil on. I recommend you use a veil all the time. I'm not saying that, but for us it's different. So this is just equipment. So a little smoke around the entrance.
It's a little hard to over smoke the entrance a little bit because the bees will blow the smoke right back out. You've maybe seen that. Blow smoke in there and the smoke comes right back out. However, you can over smoke when you're working with bees because then you get it all running around the hive and they're crawling on the ends of the frames where you're trying to handle the frames and they up your arms and all over the place. So when you're into the hive, you just drift the smoke across.
So you see there's a big difference between this one and the last one. This is a very weak colony, but what we need to find out is the queen good? We got to find out where we want to start with this, because there's things we can do, but you have to look to see what's happening before you can make those decisions. There's capped brood, uncapped brood, eggs. The queen's good. Okay, I don't see any of this pollen. She's small, there's not a lot of bees. I'm gonna move her over a little bit. Remember when you asked me about that? She's a little, I like them in the middle. So I'm gonna move her over one frame just to center her up a little bit. This nice new brood. That's not a great frame for laying in because there's not a lot of drawn comb, but it's okay. They're bringing it out. So what I would recommend for this, there's a couple things we can do. If she doesn't have anything in this, okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is this frame is more drawn.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move that over because she'll lay in that much better than this. This isn't ready to lay in, the bees aren't strong enough to draw it out. So we're gonna do that. We'll take this frame and put it back over here. So it's a 9 framer right now.
Might want to leave it that way.
Yeah,
It's gonna
probably
be
can
hard
leave it
to-
this way. Now, one thing we could do is, and I think we probably should, is go back to that hive that's got plenty of resources, pull that frame that had everything we needed on it, dump the bees off of it, and put it in here. That's gonna, those bees will hatch out and it double her strength easily. And I think she'll have a better chance of getting. The problem when they're this small is they just sometimes can't get the numbers to go. It's like, what's the equation called? It's exponential, you know? You have to have exponential growth. So Dad, as long as you agree
Want
with
me to
that,
get it?
I'm gonna pop that frame out, dump the bees off of it because, so I'm gonna dump the bees off of that. You don't wanna take a big full frame of bees from a strong hive and put it in a weak one. They might go kill your queen.
Now, this time of year, you always want to check the cover. You know, we found the queen on there first thing. Interestingly,
We put her back over here, on this side.
No, I don't have to find her. There's
we're
no
gonna
reason.
shake
She's
Lay's back in here.
Right.
I'll check for it.
You know, queens are funny. Sometimes they're easy to find. Sometimes they're down on the bottom part in the corner, taking a break. Sometimes they're on the inner cover, like that other one was. You got to be careful taking inner covers off to make sure you check that. You can often, for some reason, the queen will be walking around on the inner cover, and you don't want to, bang it off. She ends up in the grass. You can't get back in. I think it was like the third one in, Dad.
Yeah. Fourth one, I think.
Make sure she hasn't moved
So
over.
if she falls out of the hive, she won't fly back in. She won't find her way back in.
So I'm going to take one of these out. She might if she falls right in front of the hive.
Okay, I'm just checking. Want to make sure she's not on
Get a
here.
brush.
You can use a brush, but that'll be fine. I'm going to maybe actually put her right between these two. We can look again if we see her.
Okay, so we're putting in here.
There's a drone. Everybody
A
see what a
frame.
drone looks like?
Oh, the big one.
He's the boy. You can take him like this. And go out. Because he doesn't have a stinger.
Poor guy.
My grandfather used to do that. So all this brood and stuff right there, that's all going to hatch out. I'm putting them right in the middle of the brood chamber where there's plenty of bees to keep them warm. There's not plenty, but there's enough. And tighten up those frames a little bit.
We got a frame to go back in there.
Want to hand me that one?
And
I'll put that back
then
in.
next time we're here, those bees will all hatch out, and that's going to really improve the chances of this hive making it. Because you just put a couple thousand baby bees are going to come out. And that's probably the population of that hive right now, so it'll be double in a matter of days. So, I'm going to put a real inner cover on there.
One of them, I took the queen and a frame out to make an observation hive, but I can't remember which one this was. So, and then the other one, I put a queen cage in here, and Chaz is going to look at them and see which is the queen. So this is a package from, again, like that first one, came from Georgia or Alabama.
From Betterby?
And from, no, a guy in New York, another guy in New York. Aaron Morse.
I don't know if it has a Mac Queen. It probably would be if it came from a package. But you can see her without the Mac, because she looks quite a bit different, like you saw. And then what I'm looking for also is some baby bees and things. I don't see many. There's one. Okay, so something's going on. Set them right here. That was from I think a pollen patty that was put on here earlier in the spring, probably in March. Yeah. They don't need it anymore because there's lots of pollen coming in, but they sure did need it in March. Some more drones. You see the drones with the big eyes. Looks like they're cleaning up to get that ready for it to lay in, hopefully.
This is another package.
Uh-oh. So that's all drone group. See how it's made? So, yeah, that is a supersedure cell that looks like it hatched out. They're trying to, they raised another queen or are going to. Actually, I might have broken that cell. They might be trying to raise one. Let me see. Now, that doesn't mean it's a drone layer yet, but it may mean that. We have to look farther. Yeah. So, this hive is a drone layer. So she's shooting blanks.
Never made it.
Well, who knows?
Yeah. You know what a drone layer, what causes a drone layer?
She's on fertile.
She has no fertile sperm in her. And if she lays an egg, it can only hatch into a drone.
That's a drone.
You can't make a queen from it. You can't make a worker bee from it. All it'll do is turn into a drone.
Oh, damn. So then what do you do?
Pardon?
Well, Bill has some
What's
queens, I
the
think.
choice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to add it, you need a different queen?
Yeah. And if I find it would be preferable to kill her.
Wow.
And how do you do that?
You just flush her with your fingers. Well, not much. You're just cleaning up that area a little bit.
So those are all
The problem with a drone layer queen is she's usually not that big and they're a little harder to find.
But you ought to be able to find some eggs, right?
I haven't found any eggs so far, but
No.
Yeah, one indication too of a drone layer is if you find eggs, is the eggs often are flopped over on their side and they're crooked where normally they stand on end.
and the bees can be much uglier in a drone layer.
Yeah.
Be warned of that. If they're not happy.
They know something's wrong.
Can you tell the difference between a laying worker and a drone layer?
Yeah, because the laying worker has multiple eggs in a cell, and they don't go all the way to the bottom, and you can't requeen it.
Could you just pop a new queen in there, whether or not you find it?
Yes, you can.
Or would they kill her?
Just,
They would if you just stuck her in there,
yeah, but you have to put her.
but you have to put her in a cage so that with candy, so that it takes
You can lie
3
it flat.
to 5 days for her to get out of the cage.
Yeah.
And by that time, she's giving off her queen pheromones. Okay, calming the bees down. They'll realize she's a good queen, and then by time and get used to her scent and her pheromones. And then by the time she gets out, they'll
You
accept
helping me,
it.
Sam?
And then what will happen to
Looking for
the
that
other
queen?
queen if you don't?
The other queen, they'll usually kill it, or it may die already.
You want one of those queens, Chaz?
Yeah, we might as well put one in because I'm going to look again for her, but I haven't had any luck so far. Sam's going to find her before I do.
So is the number of the drone cells that you're looking for has
Yeah, they're longer abdomen. Let's look a little
This is-
different. And
this is
what I
way
always
too
do
many
is start
drone
around
cells
the
at this
edge and
time of
work
year.
my way into the middle.
Yeah, and they're spotted and they're grouped.
really pattern
and
recognition.
It means that she's been unable to
Usually
lay fertilized
Pop
eggs.
right out at you if you've looked for them a lot. But drone layer queens are usually harder to find simply because they're smaller and they also may not be even on the comb.
The only time a queen can get fertilized is in that first, right after hatching?
No, those hives had, first one had a good fertilized queen, laying good. Second one we looked at.
No, she's asking when can she get fertilized. Only during her mating flight. She's only got, it's not one opportunity. She can fly several times in a 3-day period.
But it's that 3-day period.
But that's it.
So now that she started laying, there's no more window for her to
No,
get fertilized.
she can't go and refly.
She's already probably bred once.
She's an old maid.
Huh?
Yeah.
She's an old maid.
Old maid.
Or a young maid, but she's not a fertile maid.
Not a fertile.
Is there a percentage of queens you buy that are not fertile?
Not her daughter.
Well,
I don't like
usually the ones you buy are mated. Theoretically.
Don't look at me now. I am
However,
completely confused.
The
Don't even look at
success
me.
rate isn't super high
Overwhelmed.
because they're put in a cage, bundled up. They may sit on a shelf for a few days, then they go through the mail and they get tossed into the mail things and banged around. And my experience with queens that you buy in a cage actually have a relatively low success rate, mostly probably thanks to the post office. If you can get cages right away and the queen is fresh, that's a whole different ballgame.
And there's no candy, so I just
You just come back and release it?
and I'll come back and release it. Yeah.
Well, she doesn't even have anybody with her. Huh?
No.
So over one of these had a queen cell.
Now is that a mated queen?
So you want to
Upside.
face it up or it doesn't
well,
have
it's not
candy?
gonna make a difference. I got to come back and pull it out anyway. But that's the thing. I mean, if you probably already know
Make
this.
sure you get the screen with it.
Where
You can buy queens that'll have attendants in there and also a sugar end and a cork end.
Where's the screen on
And
that,
the
Chaz?
beginner's
front.
mistake
Oh,
is always
okay.
pull the cork out,
So
and the queen gets released and gets
I'm
killed.
facing her toward the bees. They're not going to like her right now. And I'm squeezing those two frames together. Okay? Got enough space for it.
But you left the screen open, so they can
The
feed her.
screen's open. The screen's facing this way. Did everybody see that? Okay. And eventually those bees want to probably kill her right now, but eventually they'll hopefully start to try to feed her. Once they realize she's a gift.
Probably easiest to shake the bees off there, Chaz, and leave it right out if it's too tight.
I don't think it is.
That's
Well,
right.
leave it off. And no, I'll just put it back in when I come back.
Yeah.
Let me see if it goes down.
All right.
Do they try to
See,
kill the
3
attendant
beekeepers,
bees?
4 opinions.
Will they try to kill the attendant bees, or they don't care about
There's no attendant bees in
There's
there.
no attendance.
them? No, if there were.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
They might not. I think sometimes they do. They usually die pretty quick anyway because they've been in the cage for a number of days.
Want me to sting you in the back? Helps.
No. Who's got bees, right? So again, a little smoke in front. This is a similar situation, Bill?
Yeah, but that should have a queen in there. I mean, one
Okay.
of those queens from Hiker.
Yeah, there's a free cage. That one was facing towards the So she's ready to let go?
You think she's ready to pull out?
Well, I don't know how long she's been in there.
Oh, just since yesterday.
How long does it take?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was put in.
They're not trying to sting her.
Not trying
Well,
to sting
you know, I pulled out the frame with the queen yesterday, and made up my observation hive with it, and and then I put one of these in as a replacement.
Okay.
So, so I can come back in a day or two. I mean, they
I
don't
would-
look like they're chewing on it.
They're not trying to hurt her.
Yeah.
I think you're good.
Okay, let's pop her out.
Are you all right with that? It's your queen. I don't
Well, yeah, I know, but
You want to wait, but she doesn't have any
Well,
resources
she's
in
coming back tomorrow. You coming back tomorrow?
I got to come back tomorrow anyway.
Yeah.
Why don't we just leave her
Make
in
it a
there,
little
and I'll
safer.
make a note to do that and make me feel a
Where
little better.
was she exactly?
Right there. Yep.
Well, no, you don't want to cover up the screen.
That's where you had it.
That's where you had it.
Well, I didn't mean that. That's why I've given them more space.
Yeah.
It was just like that. They had space between the board. I was kind of wondering what was going on. I'll just leave it like that for
There you go.
There.
now. So
there
did we
you
take a frame out? No.
I did. No, there's only 9 in there.
Right. I didn't take a frame out.
No, you did. Okay.
All right.
Good. Great.
That looks like it'll work. So we're not going to do anything else there. It's got bees. He's just waiting for him to accept the.
Yeah, does it matter whether it's right?
Uh,
I see you
it
guys like.
depends if you run an entrance or not. Everybody does.
Yeah.
This for summer is right side up for me.
Now, why don't you turn
want
it
it like
over
this?
and reverse it? Reverse this. There you
You
go.
want that in the back? Okay.
Right, that's where it was.
Good. Okay.
So from
Better be. And I think I put this on because it was looking pretty strong.
room here. So I'm not having that white smoke, so I'm giving it a puff.
Now, where was the nuke?
Better
Which
be.
hive body was the original in?
The original nuke was put into this,
Okay.
and then I just put this on top.
So what do you want to check?
Reverse it?
Well,
or
why don't you see how far they've gone up in 2 weeks, and then
reverse it?
I don't think it's ready to reverse.
No, I
You
wouldn't.
can make
This
a.
is
I don't think it's.
just make sure.
I mean, it only started from 5 frames.
Now, would that be in the new nuke? You didn't put sugar water in it?
I did.
Oh,
I
you
did. I did. And but last week they was looking at
Well, there's definitely bees on the frames, so their numbers are looking good.
Yeah.
You're not going to see eggs up here yet. Brood, probably. It's all down below.
Lots of bees.
But we are seeing pollen coming in.
And one
Bee
thing,
bread.
you can see is young bees. They're usually fuzzy, really fuzzy. Yeah, that means they've just hatched out in the last couple of days. They'll get.
So,
Fuzz will wear off eventually.
from what Bill is telling me, this is a nuke that came this year. He's added the deep. There's really, today, there's no reason to go down there to check anything. I don't think. I mean, we could go down and make.
Would you switch the two?
Well, not necessarily on a nuke. See, this was just one, so they've already basically are reversed.
Well,
Okay.
The bees are below.
Chad, why don't you go down, I'll just flip up the end and just show them that, I mean, my principle, the reason I put this on is because I found activity all the way out to point to
Yeah.
positions
It
2
was
and
strong
9,
enough so he could add that.
so that I wasn't getting a chimney effect.
So you say chimney effect that everything's in the middle and nothing's...
Everything's in the middle.
Got it.
I always use my, you don't want to put these down in your grass. Just flush bees and go.
So for my hive that made it through the winter, after its first year, I need to switch those, right? That's
Yeah, you're gonna see that when
Is
we
it
do our.
2 boxes?
Yeah, 2 boxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna show basically that it's not a too deep, but you'll see the principle. So here's a foundation that they're starting to dry out nicely. Putting fresh honey in. That's all fresh honey. They're getting it from somewhere. Hopefully they'll dry out that side too.
Probably around here, soft maple would be my guess. Grow near water.
So, and Bill's right. It's kind of like that hive we looked at first. It's a strong one. They're going to need room. They do have some room to the sides. Basically, you know, you can leave this hive alone and for quite a while. It's got time to
No, that's
all cap brood.
capped brood, and,
Yeah,
and
looks
that's
very
a
healthy.
combination of drone and.
The bees and brood down at the bottom. Sam, will you give me that inner cover right there? Make sure you don't grab a bee. There's bees on there. All right.
But they have not been checked since last year at all.
Okay, so this is if you've overwintered a hive. Now, this particular
Don't look at
hive
that.
we're running as a single deep. It doesn't really matter. If it's a double deep, you're doing essentially the same thing. What's going to end up happening is this shallow is going to be on the bottom, and this shallow is going to end up being on the top, and the brood chamber is going to stay right where it is. This brood chamber, this shallow on the bottom, I expect will be almost empty, just the ladder. This should have right now, I think we'll find honey and brood and bees and everything. We're going to put that down at the bottom. And then I am also hopeful that the brood chamber is going to be full of brood as well. It's a pretty strong hive. And if it is, if everything looks right, we're going to add that super there.
That hive body.
That hive body. And what I'm hoping Bill will do after we treat these with formic acid today is come back in 30 days and make nukes from that top box. And then he will have 3 beehives instead of 1. Okay, because he should be able to make 2.
Now, you may want to make sure your tail is on. These bees, because of the transportation and everything and being cooped up all night, might be a little pissy. There's one right here that's pissy.
So
Not anymore.
we use a reversing jig. Usually, I hope.
So we could just put them right in the hive body over here. Why don't you just leave them standing up so we don't disturb them.
So normally we flip them backwards. So because they're probably not very happy, we're gonna just transfer them right over there.
If you notice, they were flying around. See, they're not oriented. They were just not, they don't know where they are.